One. Okay, everybody. So, welcome. I'm Marguerite Rigoglioso of Seven Sisters Mystery School, and I'm delighted to be here today with Nicola D'Alonzo. Nicola is a level 3 Priestess of the Dove Oracle student, and she's joining me today to talk about a number of things, and the main one being what it is like to go from being in a situation where you're with a guru and things start going down, which is something that many people can identify with, and how you can get yourself out of that into sovereignty. So, Nicola, welcome.
Thank you, Marguerite. So happy to be here. And specifically talking about this subject, it's one of the toughest, but it also has a lot of treasures.
Yeah. So we welcome anybody who is live with us to say hello, let us know you're there, and to post any questions or comments for us. All right. So, Nicola, why don't we get started with you talking about where you were pretty much a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, when you were deciding to go into the Seven Sisters Mystery School Priestess of the Dove Oracle training. What was drawing you to that?
I've been really interested and connected with a spiritual path pretty much since my mom died about 20 years ago. And I've experienced some bumps and bruises along the way, to put it mildly. And at that juncture, I did not have a teacher. I didn't have a practice anymore because of things that had happened in the past. And so I was looking for a teacher and I was looking for a practice. And at the same time, I was very leery. I was very untrusting. And I wasn't sure that I'd find a teacher that I could trust again. And
Go ahead. Yeah.
well, I was so interested in Seven Sisters Mystery School, especially the Priestess of the Dove, because there was something about Dove that really resonated with me and kind of ran through my whole life. And so that just really triggered a knowing deep inside, even though I didn't know what it was at that point. I still didn't know. And also, to be honest, to have a female teacher. That was also really important to me because of what had happened in my past with a male guru.
Yeah, which we are going to talk about. So, what happened? What were some of the landmarks in your work in the Priestess of the Dove Oracle training that allowed you to sort of go deeper and deeper into this?
Well, level 1 is interesting because you do not have to be present. You can watch the videos later on online. And because I was so traumatized, I didn't watch them. I wasn't present for them. I watched them later because I was really assessing what is happening with you, the teacher, and what were the students doing? What was the whole situation like? And there were a lot of things that I really liked. And right off the get-go, it was your concern for everyone's sovereignty. It was the way that you made that of utmost importance. And coming from the space that I was coming from, I was very resonating with that too. That was really important to me. Understanding that no one or nothing should be in your center but you.
So, at some point, you decided to dig in more strongly. You decided to go into level 2. Why was that?
I was loving being in the Oracle space for sure. I was loving the fact that the practice that comes through oracling is specifically made for women. What I understood from following a yogic path, it's very patriarchal. There are a lot of truths there, but they are based in patriarchy and they are for men, ultimately. Women can partake, but it is definitely not the same. And so this felt like it was made for me. And I really loved the way that again, that you were as a teacher, the fact that you were very strong with sovereignty, and that at that point, I learned more in level 2. But those were some of the big pieces, feeling like this is the meditation practice that's for me because I'm a woman and it resonates with me on every level.
Wow. And how did you, so fast forward a year, you're in level 3. How have you been finding the Oracle space? How have you been using it in your life?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's coming in all the time now. It's popping in. I'm finding that using the practice as much as I do, what's happening is I feel that meditational state running throughout my day. When I'm communicating with someone, I'm feeling that oracle state just popping in, even if I haven't meditated beforehand. I'm seeing truths come through with such clarity, and it's changing the way that I'm communicating with everyone from my dog to some of the most difficult people in my life.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. And I've been noticing that, throughout the time, the level of your Oracle transmissions has become really sophisticated. The type of information that you're bringing through. Are you finding it interesting to be drawing that level of information from the universe, so to speak?
It is fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. At this point, so a lot of it has to do with just trusting that what you're receiving is actually true. And I'm at that, I'm just breaking into trust all the time now. I was popping in and out for a while, and I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm going to just trust this. And it's amazing. If you have a spiritual question, I don't have to run to some book and see what someone else said, or go to Google and try to figure it out. And is this a trusted source? I don't know. I mean, this is coming from my own connection with the divine. And what can I trust more than that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things that I teach in the Oracle training is that you are transmitting from that, what I call the goddess self state, the higher self state, some others say. It's not that you're having entities come in and take you over or anything like that, or that you're transmitting directly from the consciousness of those beings. It may be that some of them are sitting in attendance and kind of like going, hey, what about this? But then it comes through you and you evaluate, sift through. But I think for you and for many who get serious on this path, more and more, you're just there. You're there with it. It's not even that like guides are coming in or beings, of any kind are coming in. It's being delivered. Would you say that's the case?
I would say that's the case.
Yeah.
I still can have a relationship with guides or beings that I'm curious about. I can ask them to come.
Yeah.
But it's my own relationship to knowledge. It is just continually strengthening my own connection to the knowledge that is there for all of us.
Yeah. And Nicola, you said to me that there was a period where like it was a little bit of a turning point for you to have that level of trust in the process and in me as a teacher and so forth. Maybe talk a little bit about that, and then we will move into what was the previous experience that you had, because I think that's very relevant to especially women. So they're going to be eager to hear that.
Yeah, and they're tied together. The point where I came to trusting you as a teacher and my experience in the past are definitely tied together. So for me, it was in level 2. In the middle of level 2 Oracle training, we work with the shadow pretty intensely. And it was at the point where you as a teacher talked to us open-heartedly about everything that was challenging you, the truth of what you were experiencing, what you understood your shadow to be. And you were absolutely wide open and 100% truthful, and it resonated through to me on a really deep level. And that's where I said, okay, I can trust her. And that was very impactful for me because of having lost trust so painfully in the past. And like I said, I didn't know if I would find another teacher to trust.
Wow.
And that is what I knew I would need to see. Is I understood that my teacher will need to be in touch with everything that is challenging them, what they're going through, and not sit on a stage or a pedestal or a chair and say, you can be as perfect as I am if you keep doing this practice, because
Yeah.
that's what I heard in the past.
So why don't we talk about what had happened? Because this is such a critical juncture for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, we are in the era of the Me Too movement, thankfully, where now these women are speaking out about abuse at every domain of society, from the personal, familial to, corporate, Hollywood, religious, and in the spiritual, the so-called spiritual community, uh, that maybe some traditional religions or some non-traditional religions or even New Age movement, whatever we're going to call it, there's been a lot of what I call guru abuse. I have numerous clients who come to me, refugees, or years later, they're still in trauma over things that went on, particularly with male gurus, but it can be different also with female gurus. There are kind of usually a different set of issues that happen with female versus male because of the sexual issue. But tell us about your experience, what happened, what you're willing to share, and then we'll start looking together at some answers and responses for people who may be stuck in this themselves, and or who are with the residue of trauma from this, and what could help. So tell us about your story.
I was with this particular guru for 8 years, and 4 years into that time, I had organized his first retreat in the specific area that I was living in. It was new for him to have a retreat there, and so it was a lot of work. It was a year-long process of organizing this retreat, and right before the retreat started, it turned out that there were no bed and breakfasts for him. There was nowhere for him to stay. And long story short, he ended up staying at my apartment, which to me was an unbelievable honor, because if anyone understands the guru student relationship, that is like one of the most honoring things that could happen, is to have your guru stay with you. And again, to keep this story kind of in a nutshell, what ended up happening was he offered me a Kundalini initiation. And again, I felt tremendously honored. This was a specific initiation for me. This was, no one else was involved. And he said, you did so much work. I want to honor you. I want to give you this initiation. Would you like it? And I was like, of course. And so keep in mind that to this point, he had continually purported that he was celibate. So in my mind, there was when he said Kundalini, even though that could be associated with sexuality, in this context, there was no association with that for me, because he was continually saying that he was celibate. That was a big question that came up every time we were in the public. What are you doing with your sexuality? Oh, I'm celibate. So what ended up happening was that Kundalini initiation turned into a sexual abuse. What happened to me, I went into a state of shock. And through working in therapy, I was able to unravel all of what happened and come to terms with my own experience around it. I was unable to hold what I knew from him on the stage, who he showed himself to be in public. I was unable to put that together with the man that I was seeing in my apartment, who offered an initiation, but really was saying, do you want to have sex with me? And I said yes, not knowing that I was answering that second question, not the first one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there more to the story? Were you the only one that he was interacting with, or
There's a lot more to the story, yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that, because if that's the case, this is typical of what I hear. The you're the only one phenomenon, and then all of a sudden, the woman finds out there's a string of these things going on. So what did you find out?
I found out that he's basically been doing this for the 30 years that he's been coming to the United States. I'm sure he's continuing to do this. I saw women who came forward after that experience with him, who tried to say they had a relationship with him. And what he did was personally attack them. He tore them down in an email sent to the entire community. He said they were saying mantras wrong, and this is what was messing up their mind. He was blaming one woman for constantly trying to get sexual attention from the men of the group. And so I never said a word. I never said a word about it for the next 4 years, and I stayed his student, and that had to do with misplaced loyalty. And I understand that very clearly now. But in that time, what he did was a subtle attack on our entire group in the state that we were. He continually attacked our meditation group. And when we said, hey, you know, we're having problems with other teachers from other states, he said, oh, that's your karma. Don't worry. It's just working out. It'll work out. But I heard from a friend who was there on the other side, and he eventually left this guru, and he said, Nicola, he was planting all of those attacks on you. Essentially, he was afraid because now I knew his shadow.
Yeah, big time. Mm-hmm. What was the first time that you heard that he had been active with someone else, and how did that impact you?
Gosh, that's the first time I heard that he was active with someone else was when I finally left him and I spoke about it. There was only one other person that I told this story to during that last 4 years of my time with him. And I would never recommend that for anyone, just to be clear. So I had another friend who also left him for a different reason, because he had the same issues with money, the same issues with power that you see again and again with guru abuse. He left him for those reasons. And so we got together and we're talking, and it was like, you know, I need to share something with you. That's what I said to him. And he said, I have a feeling I know what it is. And apparently 3 or 4 women had that same month come out to him and say, hey, this happened to me too. And then as the story started unfolding and people were leaving him, more and more information started coming out, and it became apparent that it's been going on the entire time he has been in the United States, which is over 30 years now.
And there was never any kind of concerted public outcry by women to shut him down or deport him or whatever it was? Did anything happen?
From what I understand, women were trying individually to stand up and say, hey, this happened to me. But the loyalty from the group, all of his followers, I would call them his bulldogs, because they would just tear anyone down who tried to say anything publicly against him, no matter what format, whether they sent an email, whether they put it on Facebook, whether they put it on a website. There are people that are in his organization that are in charge of looking for bad information about him and annihilating it.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's watching us live, I'm inviting you to post comments, questions. I see that we've been having lots of love and likes come through on the Facebook page, you know, in response to your comments. I'm only seeing a couple of comments, but I know there's lots of people on. So please feel free to write in, because we will take at least a couple of questions. So Nicola, having gone through what you've learned in level 2 and now in level 3, mm-hmm. especially about the shadow, but not only the shadow, but really entities. What do you make of this whole thing? What is going on with this guru or any male guru mm-hmm. that is engaging in this type of behavior of the first, second, or third chakra abuses?
Yeah. I mean, it is clear that they are not clear. And I think that's one of the first pieces that is the most confusing, and specifically for them, because their understanding, or at least his and other gurus that I've heard, they're beyond karma. And I don't think that can be the case if you are in a human body. I That is my understanding at this point. No one who inhabits a human body is beyond karma. I don't care how cool you are. I don't care if you can levitate right in front of me. I won't believe that that's the case. So I think that that's one element. The other is, you know, this, especially coming from India, there's an interesting dynamic there. The women are very close. Their chakras are very close and they are extremely empowered. I spoke to 11-year-olds who were more empowered than many 40-year-old women that I've seen here in this country. And it is astounding, their capacity to hold their energy and to keep things closed down. American women are not so good with closing down their chakras, and we have a lot of self-esteem issues, and we have a lot of issues with regard to sexuality and getting self-esteem through sexuality. So you have these guys that are coming from India who feel like they have it nailed down. They think they have their sexuality under control. And I liken it to playing t-ball and then coming to the US, and now you're in the minor or the major leagues and you don't know that you've made that kind of transition, because the way the women are holding their energy is so different. These guys think they have it nailed down. They're playing t-ball and they do great. And they come here and now they're in the big leagues and they don't know. And so they kind of feel like, oh, I have my sexuality under control. And they believe that if they do engage in sexuality with a woman, it's by their choice. And that is not so. That's another, it's like a lie that they're telling themselves. So their chakra control is
by the choice of the woman or the guru's choice?
The guru's choice. The guru choosing, saying to himself, I can engage in sexuality with her. That would be a blessing for her. That's not true. That's not true. The power dynamic there, the power differential is through the roof, and that is never a healthy sexual relationship. I don't care how you slice it.
Yep, absolutely. So some learnings here. If you're in a relationship with any kind of guru, teacher, whatever, and you choose to engage sexually, you'd be best to get out of that group. But then again, if you're in that group, you're in it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get out of it. So it's like best to just stay out of that scenario. It's like sleeping with your therapist. And that's why there are rules around therapists having to have very clear boundaries with patients, even like for the rest of their lives, really. Mm-hmm. Because of what can go on and all of the transference and the projection and the energies that can come in. So watch out, just that's going to be a given. You're not going to want to get involved with your guru on that level, number one. Number two, watch for you're special. I'm going to give you this initiation. This is even part of the path. This is the most secret teachings, whatever. Number two, you just don't want to go there. Number three, you're going to find out you're not the only one. And then you're going to feel doubly, triply, quadruply, and whateverly betrayed, right? There's a power difference, a power differential, and there's lots of energies coming in. And I want to address that in a minute, but we're getting some questions here. A woman is saying, I'm grateful for your sharing. Are we going to get to know the name we should steer clear of?
I will not share his name. I would steer clear of any guru. I would steer clear. The title alone is a problem, especially if they do not have someone watching over them.
Yeah, no supervision. Okay. Yeah, because, Nicola's making a choice not to create further karma. Mm-hmm. It's not her path to do so. Now, it may be some women's paths to speak the name, and darn it, for those women to band together, because divided you fall. United, you stand. And that's what's happening with Me Too. Like the attention is being gotten finally after centuries, maybe even millennia of this activity. Men are starting to have to look twice and three times at their behavior or preempt it at the root. Another woman says interference is often part of this past life karma and more so deep subconscious unresolved wounding. Now, yes, and that brings us to the point that I've been receiving throughout these last couple of years around all this and Me Too, which is the entity attachment factor. Okay, most people have entities from low level to like Jeffrey Dahmer level. I'm going to, kill the world level entities, and they come in because these beings are on the other side. They're looking for food. They're floating around, and you usually have some kind of karma with them somehow through some actions that have gone on in past lives, and boom, there they are all of a sudden. And what do? They hook into your hormones, or they hook into your chakras, they hook into your wounds, your weak chakra areas, your out of control chakra areas, all this. And gurus are their favorite target. Okay, this is why the whole thing of Christ being in the desert, this is one of the things he was grappling with for those 40 days, because they were bargaining and trying to make all sorts of, that's the archetype for the guru that's dealing with these energies that will come in and look really justified, really like he's still on the up and up, and deceptive, like it will even make the guru go in denial. So that's how fierce these entities can be. And they love to come in and get all sorts of food out of these situations. The sexual food, the energetic out of control food, the shame, the anger, whatever comes in, right? And so gurus who say I'm beyond karma, okay, you are in a human body and you are susceptible just like the rest of us, And that's why shadow work is such an important part of the teacher work, and it's, oh my God. I mean, for me, I'm constantly having to do it and look and just go, oh God, what happened with that last student that I just did and, worked with, that wasn't a clean interaction, I have to make some amends, whatever. And preempt it. Preempt it. Be aware that this can happen. You can get hooked even in the moment. With a client, you're getting triggered, whatever it is. So this type of thing is really rampant, and so this man is creating a ton more karma. That's going to be about 365 more lifetimes for him to clean up, or however many people, and exponential that you touch. Like, you do not want to get into that type of thing. You really do not. Another woman is asking, what do you say to a person being abused by someone like this? How would you suggest a person protect themselves, both energy and keeping themselves clean? Nicola, what would you offer here?
It sounds like she has not, or he have not left the person that they're with. Did you get that from the question?
I was not sure. Maybe it's just more of a general thing. Like, maybe it's like, what are the warning signs? And then if it starts, what do you do?
Okay, I would say the number one biggest red flag is anyone who is sitting on a stage or before you purporting to be a teacher, a guru, or anything else. Rinpoche, I don't care what their spiritual title is. As long as they are saying that they have reached a level of perfection and you can too, number one biggest red flag. Right there. That is not while you're human. Not while you're human. So that's number one. And then number two, any kind of request that you put them as your central target for meditations, for your connection to the divine, that they are somehow in the way between you and your own relationship with the divine. That is another huge red flag. Stay away. And I would also say any path that comes from the patriarchy. We are now understanding the way that this type of thinking has infiltrated everyone's consciousness. And this, I think, is one of the most confusing elements, because this has to do with our relationship to the divine, to God, to beings, to deities, whatever, however you want to look at it. This is where it's the most confusing, because we like to believe that these guys have attained some level of clarity, some level of truth, some level of being beyond human daily crap that we all don't like to do. We like to believe that they've made it there, because we think, oh, if they did, I could too. And the truth is, they haven't. They have got to do all the same things we do. You know, when that guru was not on the stage, he asked for a Burger King fish sandwich. I mean, you know, he's got to eat. He's got to have it.
All right, pause. Just saying, one time I was in a room with Deepak Chopra, and, you know, he was coming out with all that, you're going to live forever, whatever. And I was watching him. He was eating a brownie. I'm like, you're not going to live forever eating that, you know, like.
Yeah, right?
He's a nice man. I'm not putting him in this category. Anyway, okay. Yeah.
Right.
So as far as I know, okay.
Right. Unless we learn. But we're all human, no matter what our spiritual status is. And that's one of the things that I feel really compelled to share with whoever would like to listen, because it's like a lie that's in our spiritual communities. It's a belief that's out there. And I have got to say that I have come to a place that it's not true. It's just not true. If you're human, you have issues, you have problems, you have a shadow.
Absolutely. 100%. And I want to offer here that something that my mentor, Patricia Anderson, pointed out to me. She said that when you have a guru system, the guru is like the head of the octopus, and the tentacles go into the crown chakras of all of the disciples. And with women, if you're now getting sexual, it's going to go into your second chakra as well, or your holy womb chakra, which is like your whole lower area. So that felt right on to me, because they shouldn't be coming into your space as an alternative to the divine or a mechanism by which you connect with your own divinity. That is antithetical to sovereignty. And in my opinion, are still in an older system, perhaps that worked one time in the planet, or might work in a cultural context that's not ours, which is about sovereignty here in the US and in many Western countries. And you want to decord that. You want to take that cord out and put it up to Creator, or, you know, remove it from both ends and burn it into the sun, and then just put it like a healing gold or you know, the purple light back onto your crown to get your integrity. And that is what I see. You know, I've seen this one situation where the room is filled with mainly middle-aged women, you know, white women of decent amount of privilege, with this teacher who's not from an Indian country or an Asian country or anything like that. And what happened? He plucked one of the extremely young students from his retinue, 40 years younger. And this has been going on for quite some time. The girl was barely out of adolescence, okay? And I was upset about this whole thing, especially when this young woman in front of the group started expressing distress, like she didn't really know what her role was, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, well, that's my entree right there. And, you know, I said something in the group, and again, it was like groupthink, shut down. No one would touch it with a 10-foot pole. No one. And what it became was, I'm not going to judge that person. I don't know what their karma and their role is. Really? What about the Council of Women Elders who are sitting in this room and should be screaming that this is a ridiculous situation, and that this is being allowed? And this young woman is probably 5-10 years from now, she's going to be like, what the heck was I thinking? Right? Okay. Yeah. This man is 60 plus. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, this is the level of subtlety, right? Because it's not even as obvious as your situation where, okay, and for all I know, who knows what the heck is going on with this person. But, it's like that's another, in my estimation, example of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we get into these situations and we encounter it, what is our actual role?
Mm-hmm.
What is our actual role? I mean, I have chosen to not really make a big public display about this because, I've got enough to do. But I was just like, oh my God, this is coming into my field. I've talked to the young woman about it. And, she has a whole list of justifications of why she's doing it. So I'm like, look, I've done my piece by you. If later on you want to come and talk to me, you can. But I felt a responsibility when she came to me on another issue to say something. You know what I mean? As an elder, okay, somebody 30, 35 years older than this young woman. So, okay, these are the types of things that are going on. So we've got a lot of people thanking us. We've got a lot of love coming on here. And it's an uncomfortable topic. And, it doesn't bring any woman joy to speak this stuff out, right, Nicola?
Oh no.
It doesn't.
No.
It's not, we do not want to be here blowing the whistle.
No. That's the last thing I want to be doing, is spending my time talking about a traumatic experience that happened to me and anybody else's traumatic experience. And especially when it's in relationship to the divine. That is one of the most conflicting and confusing spaces where this kind of trauma can come in, because we have this belief that if it's associated with the divine, it's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And whatever these teachers are channeling, well, the channeled beings are not having any issue with it, so why should we? Well, this is where frickin' human discernment is coming in, and an initiation for all of us to move from childhood and adolescence to adulthood regarding our teachers and also these so-called deities or beings or whatever they are. Okay? So that's what I see happening here, is this initiation. So you had an initiation into your sovereignty, and that this was not only on the level of the guru, but the level of the content of what was happening, which is going to be a whole other thing that you're going to be talking about in level 2 a little bit, because Nicola is also my teaching intern for the 2018-2019 year. So she's been working with me in level 1, and she's going to be continuing in level 2 and offering some teachings. And we are going to go into this area about sovereignty related to deities, because this was just a big topic of conversation that I had in a brunch with some very interesting people recently. And it just came right up. And I was like, well, this is very synchronistic, because in the last few weeks, I've been thinking about my own relationship to the divine. And am I in a subservient mode?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of teachings coming out now about that humans actually are programmed in our DNA to be subservient and worship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is another whole thing. And I kind of like the old Sicilian streghe, the witches. I remember I had an interview with Leo Martello, and he was just like, we tell our deities like it is. And if we don't like something they did, we put their image upside down in the dirt, and I was like, ooh, I would never do something like that. But I understand the impulse now, because I'm thinking I need to rearrange my contracts, burn some, update others, because they love you to live in the nunnery, so to speak, for them, depending on what group they are and what this is all about. So we're all kind of learning about sovereignty here on every level, so that there can be no more manipulation, or we can catch it, or we can get support and a double check, if something's going on and we're starting to get confused.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things too, I mean, it's the sovereignty and it's the piece that you as a human have a voice with this deity. I don't care if it's Christ or Krishna or Mary, Mother Mary. I mean, the idea is that we are this subservient being that has no voice, and all we can do is take direction and hope that they love us enough to interact with us, and that we will somehow receive some blessing from them, and that we have no voice in return. And this is the part that's changing right now across the board, that we actually do have a voice, and we can become, like you said, almost enslaved in this relationship with different deities.
Absolutely. And so
That's
this is going to be an important part of the level 2 Priestess of the Dove Oracle training for those who have taken level 1. And we are still enrolling that level 1 all the way through to July 31st. You can see it in replay now and join along. And then there will still be time to connect with us for level 2. And this, we are going to be updating contracts in level 2 with what's going on so that people can be in right alignment with their goddess self and have, you know, any guides as advisors, but not, there's not going to be enslavement. Okay, so this is another level of evolution of the program. All right, so let me just see. We have another couple of comments. Yeah, this is recreating the patriarchal and mythological gods seducing and raping women, and that's a whole big topic of mine in my divine birth research. And we are now getting stronger and saying me too and enough, no more, yes. And I know I'm just going to go back and look for another couple of little comments here. Sorry, it's just taking my computer a minute to look.
While you're doing that, I would, you know, I feel compelled to say one thing, and that is there's another confliction that comes in around all of this, and that has to do with whether or not therapy is needed after something like this happens to someone.
Yes, please tell us.
So that, you know, in that 8-year dynamic, what was continually pounded into all of the students' minds is that meditation is enough. You can meditate your way through anything and make it through and be okay. And the truth is that the very person who was teaching that is the one who messed me up so much that I needed therapy. And, right? Okay, so
I know.
right? So and the thing is that what I understood was that this was so big and so traumatic for me personally. I needed therapy that specifically works with shock and trauma. And the one that I chose was EMDR. And that's one that pulls apart any kind of shock or trauma situation. And it was unbelievably supportive and helpful for me having emotional stability now. What happened to me after that experience for 4 years, I was a raging mess. A raging mess. I could not control my emotions. And it had to do with a boundary violation that was so intense in one of the sweetest places of my own heart, which has to do with devotion. And that is, I can't think of anything that is more traumatizing as far as a sexual experience, right on the same par as someone in your family, you know,
Yeah.
It's on the same par. And so I can't stress heavily enough the role of therapy when working through something like this, because the spiritual community has another belief that you could just use your spiritual practices and therapy isn't needed. Absolutely. And I don't agree with that at all. Therapy is very much.
Absolutely. And a lot of women in level 1 now who are moving into level 2 are finding that conversation happening with us, you and I, right? Because there's clearly some material that has traumatized them, has wounded them. And these wounds usually go back earlier to childhood. So it's usually, the guru abuse is usually not the first time that you've had some kind of boundary violation trauma, all right? You're a little bit primed for it, which is why you were getting into the guru group to begin with. Just beware, okay? And we're all looking for community. We're all looking for safety. We're all looking for a haven and sanctuary. But oftentimes, if there's been any kind of violation, sexual or otherwise, we are ripe for being violated again and again and again through life. Okay. This is not just a spiritual problem. It is an emotional healing problem, and therapy and trauma work, the somatic experiencing that's happening, the somatic awakening modalities. I would recommend looking at Irene Lyon, Lyon, and her husband Seth Lyon, Lyon. They are proteges of Peter Levine, who's very good around the trauma work, and Gabor Mate. And there are many, many therapists who are integrating trauma work. And it's not always just a talk therapy. Things like you were having the EMDR, there usually have to be bodily aspects. You may also want to get an energetic clearing, a removal of entities that could have connected with you through this. So there's multi-pronged approaches and practitioners that you really need. And it is another form of doing the best you can, but really ending up being in denial if you are trying to exclusively use a spiritual path to heal yourself. It's not enough. You absolutely have to have some excellent therapeutic, sometimes good old-fashioned therapy, sometimes these newer trauma therapies, the inner child work, whatever it is, sometimes energy or entity release. This has all got to be part of it. There's a holistic healing that needs to happen when you've had abuses, when you've had violations of any kind, be it in your childhood, later with gurus, whatever.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I can say in my own path, I did the EMDR, I did inner child work, and I had 2 soul retrievals from 2 different shamans before I came to do the oracle work.
And I was wondering about that because I thought, why is it that Nicola, felt so clear to me when we initially started working? Now I fully know. I didn't even have to ask you about any of that stuff because I wasn't picking up, things sticking out that she could use some healing with. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Each person is a different situation, so some people find out in the course of this, oh my gosh, right? If I'm going to go on to be an oracle, there are some other things I need to take care of either first or in alongside. This is not a training that's about anything goes. All right. People have got to deal with that deep level, because when you're stepping up at the level of working with other people and working with energy coming in and information for the world, you have to be in as clear and clearing a space as possible. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect and all the way healed, but you definitely have to have done a good chunk of the work and be in a mode where you are continuing to do it in order so that you do not get into some of these other situations where you are rampant for now it's not just gurus, but now you're getting connected with other entities and voices from disincarnate pieces of this and that might look good, or voices that shouldn't be there to begin with that are something else. Okay, so that's what this training is to help get women a clear, clean, safe space so that what's coming through them can be trusted and they have a way to vet it and check it out with other people also. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what we're about. This has been big and huge. Any closing words, Nicola, for people listening?
I want to say that this was probably the hardest public speaking I've ever done. And I want to thank everyone who is listening, and anyone who has experienced anything close to this. Know that you're not alone. There's support. You are loved, and there is a way through this storm. It doesn't have to be with you for the rest of your life.
No. And Nicola, I suspect that part of your ministry as you emerge from level 3 and then from us working together with you as a teaching intern is going to be coming into some level of working with others around this issue, not as your exclusive thing, because there's other way more fun and interesting things that you have to do. But I think this is going to be a piece of it, because you've gone through the fire and you've come through and you're going through the work that's needed to heal from that fire. And you're going to be a very valuable resource. You already are for many people. So I bless you and thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think that's true, that this will be part of what I work with. And I look forward to the day when we no longer need to work with this.
Absolutely. So do I. Yeah, we've had many appreciative comments. We've had many people looking. I know that many more people are going to be watching this video. I think this is really going to go around the world numbers of times because this is just the beginning of this conversation. I have not heard much about the guru abuse and us unearthing what this is, bringing it to the light of day, talking about it in as loving a way as possible, but a firm and clear way, and then us joining together and saying, where did I experience this? Where is this happening? What is my role? How can we name this, call it out, and get this behavior to stop, whether it's presently or preempting it from happening in the future? There is a big path here for people to be healing. And of course, women are not the only ones who have had this experience. Men have it. Men have it with male gurus and with female gurus. All right. So it's a big, big picture thing. And I can really feel the power of what we're talking about. And so we welcome comments. Please contact us at sevensistersmysteryschool.com. And the email to contact us both is sisters@sevensistersmysteryschool.com for comments or for assistance, for readings, for clearings, anything like that. And Nicola can talk to you also on a personal level. So we are here. We are available, and we welcome anybody who is feeling called to the Oracle path in a way that's going to enhance your sovereignty to consider checking out our Priestess of the Dove Oracle Training Level 1, still enrolling between now and July 31st, so that if you are feeling called to Level 2, you can join us in September as well. All right, Nicola.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Many blessings, and we are going to say goodbye for now.